Westplex 107.1, Cake by the Ocean. Doesn't it get wet?
It gets a little soggy, I'm not going to lie.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Good morning. It's BS in the morning. Hold on a minute. I have to adjust something. Don't go away.
Is it me?
Yes, you were. It was
Too hot to handle?
It was your fault again, as usual. It is BS in the morning. I am S. She is B, and our website is bsinthemorning.show, not .com. That's those posers from Las Vegas. We're the real deal. If you really want BS, this is where you get it right here.
This is your station, baby.
This is unadulterated BS in the morning, right here, right now. You got it. Well, the weather wizards of Weldon Springs, I've been watching the temperature very closely for the last couple of days, and their forecasts have been, shall we say, somewhat errant in the respect that, if you remember, on Sunday, that was supposed to be like 40, and it never got that high. Yesterday, they said it was supposed to be like 50, never got that high. Today, they're saying 57. They're saying 50 today, 57 tomorrow. What do you think? You think they're going to do it? You think they're going to make it?
I know there's a flood warning.
Flood warning.
Even Alexa says there's a flood warning.
This is crazy stuff. It's just to the point where, the weather is interesting. Normally, this time of the year.
Brad.
What's that?
It's like life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I get you. God, a lot of stuff to talk about this morning. Holy cow, there's all sorts of stuff in the news to talk about. Man. And we will go through the morning, and Shelley and I will discuss the stuff. Some bizarre
pertinent stuff for everyday life.
Well, some really weird things. I mean, stuff that something that happened to me yesterday that's happened to me several times, which is sort of weird. Once again, I would love to know the backstory of this particular woman, who we'll talk about next hour. Also, bank robbery in New York, which has got an interesting twist to it. Let me rephrase that. Bank robberies in New York, which have an interesting twist. The baseball thing, you know what's going on with baseball, what happened yesterday, the explosion that happened yesterday with baseball?
No.
Oh, my God. The guys from Houston got fired, and essentially they were cheating. And we even talked about this earlier.
Cheaters never prosper. Shame on them.
We talked about this last year, and we'll go more in depth in it. And the one guy is an ex-Cardinal, not an ex-Cardinal player, but used to work for the Cardinals. And he got, the commissioner dropped a huge fine on Houston, and it's pretty interesting. Anyway, all this stuff we'll talk about this morning. And then, of course, Shelley will come in, and Shelley will amaze us. The big thing last night was the national playoffs for the college. And Shelley, believe it or not, a lot of people don't realize this, but she is a sports expert. And she was actually on the broadcast last night, on the national broadcast, and she gave this incredible bit of wisdom when they were asking her about a particular situation that either of the teams could face. Her advice was,
draw back 2 and punt.
That's what she said. So she is like the expert on things like that.
Thank you so much for capturing that moment. Do you have seriously, do you have a button or a screen that says stupid things that Shelley says, and you capture them and put them on there, so all you have to do is click, and poof, there they come.
Shelley, the football expert. And what was that bit of wisdom again that she gave last night on the national broadcast?
Draw back 2 and punt.
Yes, draw back 2 and punt. Yes, that's...
Okay, bite me, Brad. Bite me bad.
The national broadcast.
Early in the morning, and you're already on my case. That's lovely. No. 6:12.
And what's interesting this morning is the national press has gone crazy because, I've read a couple stories this morning. Shelley Barr reinvents football. And people are going like, we never thought of that. Draw back 2 and punt. And now everybody's like, oh, man, wait till football season comes around next year. The game's going to be totally different because of Shelley.
I know that that's not what the what the saying is. I know there's a real saying like that, but I just didn't get it correct.
No, you got it exactly correct.
No, I didn't, and you know I didn't. So
You
stop
couldn't
it.
have gotten any more correct than what you said. I mean, talking about, being able to nail it. Okay, so that's all ahead.
Keep it up, Hildebrand. Wait till I see you the next time.
On BS in the morning. It's all yet to come. Any parting comments before we go back into music for a couple songs here?
You would want me to say them on air.
Okay.
Look, it's 6:13.
Westplex 107.1, Girls Like You. First off, there are no girls like Shelley. She is absolutely positively unique. I don't know.
Thank you. Does that mean I'm a unicorn?
You don't want to be a unicorn, trust me.
Yes, I do. There is nothing like a unicorn.
If I'll tell you off air.
According to the hot, crazy matrix, the unicorn is the best.
Well, I'll also tell you off air what the other definition of a unicorn is, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. Yeah, there's two definitions of that. And once again, those guys that did the hot, crazy, that guy's an attorney, the hot, crazy matrix.
That is so hilarious.
Yeah,
and it's true.
But the funny part of that, the funny part is that now, I mean, he says stuff in there that I'm thinking about, like, okay, in the woke area that we're in right now, can you say that kind of stuff anymore? Don't you find it fascinating that here we are, a country that prides itself on freedom of speech, and yet there's getting to be less and less freedom of speech every day? The view, you can't say that. Oh, you can't say that.
Yeah, but a lot of the stuff is being taken for granted and taken way too far.
I agree. It's just going, over the top. Okay, yesterday, and I want to get Shelley's reaction to this. Okay, I find it fascinating that we have a press release that comes out, which I received, and there's a official spokesperson for the marijuana dispensary in Collinsville, Illinois. Okay?
That doesn't surprise me.
Okay. And the reason they issued a press release yesterday...
They ran out of pot.
Yes, they ran. Well, but they ran out of pot for recreational use if you have your medical marijuana card in Illinois. Just in Illinois. You can't do it in Missouri. But
right.
If you had your medical marijuana card for Illinois, you could get it. And so I hear this lady being interviewed in a couple different radio stations. And
was she listening to Kiz Bop?
No. And
okay. You're being serious.
No, yeah. Once again, I'm scratching my head thinking, okay, now hold on a minute. Why do we have this situation where you can probably talk to several people and say, hey, I need some pot and I need it now. Who do I call? Where do I go? And you need to talk to blah, blah, blah. Here's his number. Just text him. Okay? You know what I'm saying? So The idea being is if you're going to legalize this, it's sort of like, it would sort of be like saying, hey, we're going to sell beer, but we're only going to have one location in the entire St. Louis area that's going to be able to sell beer. I mean, and it's to the point where it's like, okay, don't you think that people are going to line up the night before the place opens if that's the only place you can buy beer? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, in St. Louis, from what I understand, they had over 600 applicants and they only granted 60.
Well, but see, I don't understand the whole thing because if it's
for the whole state of Missouri.
No, I get what you're saying, but the point I'm trying to make is if it's medical marijuana, sell it at CVS, sell it at Walgreens. Right? Medicine shop. Hey, you got your medical marijuana card? Come on in, CVS. We got what you need. And if it's medical and if it's recreational, to the point where it's like, okay, maybe open more than one place. And I just don't get it. I don't understand the whole thing. I mean, and to the point where there's all sorts of crazy things about it. If you own one of these places, you can't put the money in the bank because the bank won't take the money. You can't open in a bank account because federally it's illegal. We can't advertise them because, well, we can, but we run the risk of having our licenses taken away from the FCC because we are essentially promoting a
federally against the law product.
Right, the sale of a federally regulated product which is not approved for sale to the general public. It's one of those kind of things. But I don't know. And the crazy thing about it is there are people that if you said, hey, there's this great restaurant in Collinsville, or there's this wonderful place in Edwardsville. Oh, I'm not going across the river. I'm not going over there. I'm not going to Illinois. But if you said, hey, there's a marijuana place in hey, I'm on the way. You know what I mean? It's to the point where,
So do you think that if you have your medical marijuana card, that there's a reciprocity agreement between the two states?
That's a very good question, and I don't know the answer to that. And I think the answer...
Did you record that?
Yeah,
I just want to know. Did you record that?
That I said that was a stupid question? Yeah, I did record that.
No, that's not what you said. You said, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm like,
But I think it's all in flux. It's all this crazy stuff. It's like we talked.
Well, the government in Missouri, the state government in Missouri, made $6 million.
But see, once again, there was an article in the Post-Dispatch that that if you read it, all the people that got these things in the state of Missouri, they're all buddies with mayor or with Governor Parson and the one guy that was. Was involved in this, who was like a big time, was this John Rallo guy, who was the guy who's going to jail because of all the crazy things he did with St. Louis County Executive Steve Stenger. It's like, okay, here we go, the usual suspects. It's all the politicians. They tell us how to live our lives, but yet they're the ones who are breaking the rules and making the money and doing all the things that the rest of us can't do. I don't know. I think the whole thing is just sort of screwy, and I guess especially with the medical marijuana thing, because think about it for a minute. If Bayer, which is now here in St. Louis, the old Monsanto, which is a drug company, or Johnson & Johnson came out with some new plant that they could plant, let's say they came out with some kind of a hybrid of corn, and it gave you the same effect as marijuana, and you don't think they'd be able to sell it like at CVS and Walgreens?
Oh, sure they would.
But why is the marijuana thing different? I don't understand that.
Because it's illegal federally.
Yeah, but I don't get the whole thing. We went through this prohibition thing with alcohol back, almost, over, close to 100 years ago.
That was the roaring 20s. This is the soaring 20s.
That's Shelley's little thing. Hey, let's call this the soaring 20s. And I'm going like, oh, it sounds like grade school. Hi, I'm your teacher, Mrs. Barr.
Oh, it does not. It says, this is going to be your year. And let's soar together because together we're amazing. That's what it says.
I'm Mrs. Barr, and I'm your first grade teacher, and all of us together,
Do you remember your first grade teacher?
We are Mrs. Barr's birdies, and we're going to soar this year because we are the Bar Soars. That didn't come out right, did it?
Bar Soars? Stop it.
That's what you get when you stay at the bar too much. You get bar sores. And guess where you get them?
No, you get bar flies. But... Okay, my little happy place in Shelley World is completely different than what you portrayed. But thanks, nice try.
My first grade teacher was Mrs. Fellenstein.
It's funny. I don't remember my first grade teacher, but I remember my kindergarten teacher, Miss Beaver, and my second grade teacher, Miss Hirth.
What was her name again?
Miss Beaver.
Beaver?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
She was. Do you know that in first grade, I knew all the presidents' names to Gerald Ford?
Wow. And what Shelley...
In a little song.
What Shelley doesn't tell you is that she knew all the presidents through Gerald Ford all the way up to Donald Trump. And
they didn't.
And her teacher kept saying...
It was a song that my teacher made.
And her teacher kept saying...
And she all made us learn the presidents.
Right. And her teacher kept saying, Shelley, Donald Trump will never be president. Are you kidding? Donald Trump's never going to be president.
Donald Trump was like 15.
Yeah, well, whatever. We have to take a break. It's... What was that teacher's name again?
He was young once.
What was that teacher's name again?
Miss Beaver.
629. Westplex 107.1. It is BS in the Morning. We are BS. She is Brad. I am Shelley. The website is bsinthemorning.show. Did you watch the big national championship football game last night, Shelley?
What do you think, Brad?
You couldn't. You were glued
really?
to the. You were glued to the screen, right? Was that what it was? You were glued to the screen.
I'm sorry.
You were glued to the screen.
I was sitting on the edge of my seat, going, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome!"
Yeah.
I do know the Packers won.
That's not the game I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. I'm a Packers fan because my best friend Lisa is a Packers fan.
Never.
They're going to the championships. The Packers
Draw
are.
back 2 and punt.
Never mind.
Okay.
So is Kansas City. Anyway, okay. We were going to talk about Shelley is a member of a very exclusive group. Certain people can't get in, but how was that? Was that okay?
That was okay.
Okay. Certain people can't get in, but Shelley's in. And that means that she's a certain people. No, that means that she's not a certain people because certain people can't go get in. So she's in. So that means she's not a certain people. It's called Little Black Book, run by a wonderful lady by the name of Angel Magasano. And you had the brunch on Sunday that you didn't invite me to?
We had it's called Little Black Book, Women in Business.
Right.
And you're right. Certain people can't get in, and those are usually people. I won't say that, but those are men. It's a female empowerment group.
Gosh.
But we do have wingmen. So, we can't do that. Just like men can't do the things that they do without women.
Time out a minute.
We can't, as women, can't do the things without men.
Time out.
So we have wingmen that are part of our group.
Well, here, hold on a minute. I resent being called a wingman. I'm a wing person.
Anyway, so Sunday was the ladies who lunch. No, that's not right. Little Black Book, Women in Business, Women of the Year. And so they are, hold on. They are recognized. Women, women in our group are recognized for, and it's a, hold on, what is it? It's a contest, basically. And you get nominated, and then you get people in Little Black Book vote, and then they bring in the high 3, and then the Woman of the Year brunch is when the Woman of the Year is introduced.
And what Shelley's not going to tell you is she won an award. She won an award for the woman with the most sport knowledge. And when she took the award, people were in the audience going, Shelley, tell us some sports information. And she stepped up to the microphone and said,
Draw back 2 and punt.
Okay, so I did win an award. They're doing things a little bit different at Little Black Book. They're awarding and taking note of the women in Little Black Book that have really made a difference. And the Woman of the Year, just so you know, is Justine Robinson. And she's the specialty leasing manager for Mid-Rivers Mall.
super nice lady.
Yeah, she really is.
Yes.
She's just a dynamo.
Yep.
That woman is a dynamo.
Yep. And she knows the right people to put on her electronic billboard out front.
Exactly. Do you all remember when we had KSLQ and Westplex 107.1 on the electronic billboard at Mid-Rivers?
Yeah, somebody got mad.
That was so amazing.
Yeah.
Justine, I have to thank for that. And then, so the new awards that they've got on Little Black Book. So Little Black Book is founded on 5 pillars: connect, promote, share, give, and become. And the pillar award for the woman that is all of those things, Alicia Kirchhoff with the Meadows of Lake St. Louis won the pillar award for having all 5 of them. There was a new award saying, it's called the Best of the Best, and it's the first year for this, and it's called the Eichelberger Award because the first awardee is Kim Eichelberger, and she's with Eichelberger for photography. She's amazing. And then the Connect Award is Angie Harness with Harness Your Dreams, Keller Williams. And the Promote Award is for someone that sits there and promotes LBB and their members and does it, from their heart. And that's the award that I won.
Wow.
Was the Promote Award.
The Promote Award.
Huh?
The Promote Award. I like that.
I know, right? I did too.
Yeah.
And then the Share Award is Mindy Pruitt with Cottage Care. And the Give Award that gives everything of themselves is Tracy Holbert. and the Become Award is Michelle Hulsman. So we had a lot of people recognized, and it was a lovely event. It was over at Tompkins by the Rack House over on Main Street.
Yep, one of our big advertisers.
And the whole thing was just lovely. I mean, it was top notch.
And
Really, it was.
And I wasn't invited.
That's not, well, that is true because I didn't think you would come. If I thought that you would have showed up, I would have invited you.
Okay. You know what? I'll remember that. When something happens and Shelley says, well, you didn't invite me. Well, you know what? We didn't think you would show up, so we didn't invite you.
Well, the thing about that is, Brad, is that I know I would show up.
Yeah.
You would not show
How
up.
do you know that? I show up for all sorts of stuff.
That's true when I make you, but...
Yeah. I mean, I
would have made you, but then you wouldn't have enjoyed yourself. And anyway, blah, blah, blah. So
Okay.
I'm sorry I didn't invite you.
My
Because there
feelings are
were
hurt.
men there at this event.
Yeah, wing persons. Wing persons were there, not wing men, because we can't say that anymore. It's wing persons.
Oh, no, you can say wingmen. They don't mind.
Oh, no, that's
the ones
that's
that are
politically
wingmen
incorrect.
are totally honored to get that little pin.
And I don't have one.
You're not a wingman.
Man, I'm just the outside dude on this whole situation, aren't I? I'm just like the leper. Oh, he's a leper. Don't get near him, right?
That's not true.
Yeah.
Stop it.
And you know what Shelley would say? What Shelley would say when I said I was a leper? Shelley would say,
I don't think that we should be called cougars anymore. I think we should be called panthers.
"Okay, so
Thank you, Brad.
it's time."
Anyway, so I wanted to say thank you to Little Black Book, Angel Magasano, and her team for the honor and the privilege of being their first Promote Award. And my heart is full. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to you and all the other ladies. And LBB does a great job. I think that we
They
need
do.
I think we need a
Very
men's.
community oriented. Do you know that at this event with the Burr Bash, we sponsored we promoted the Burr Bash,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And that's a fundraiser for Toys for Tots,
Right.
and cash for a local charity.
Right.
And because of the Burr Bash, we donated, I think, over 7,000 toys and to Toys for Tots, and was able to give a check to We Love St. Charles, which is a local non-for-profit, of $10,000.
Impressive. Shelley, we're way
Yes.
behind. We got to take a break. It is 6:47.
Okay.
Westplex 107.1, Higher Love. I can't believe she just said that. She wasn't supposed to say that. Anyway, that is Whitney Houston. God, what talent she had. And wow, so sad that she's gone. I mean, things that if there's one thing in this world that drives me crazy, it's that people that, destroyed themselves, quite honestly. I mean, and I don't mean to say that in a bad
let
way.
other
but,
people destroy them.
well, I mean, you can't say it's other people destroy you. You had a part to do with it. You know what I mean? You can resist if someone's trying to take you to the dark side. You can resist, and sometimes
Take you to the dark
No,
side.
seriously, that's what happened with her. Some people will say it was because of Bobby Brown, the fact that he was
I would say that.
not a good dude and, introduced her to drugs and a different lifestyle and stuff like that. But, I saw something the other day that there was a video of her. I can't remember what it was. It was like a composite video of a bunch of different singers, and it just had little snippets of different singers singing various songs. Like it was one of these things, exceptional performances. I see those on YouTube, all these compilation videos, and oh my God, I can't even remember what song she was singing, but she was on stage and it was just like, holy cow! And if
That woman was.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
incredibly
blessed by the angels.
Oh,
I'm not
incredibly
lying.
talented. I mean, just incredibly talented. And
Yes.
and then her daughter died almost sort of the same way. Weird.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. It's just it's one of those things. It's like, okay, it's almost like we've talked about this. We had this on last week when we played Amy Winehouse Rehab, the 27 Club, and these people that are so incredibly talented. But matter of fact, I heard an interesting story. Maybe we'll talk about this next hour. Everybody knows him. Most people know him as Neil Peart, but the correct way to pronounce his name was Neil Peart. and he was the drummer for Rush. Now, I know there aren't many women who've gotten into Rush through the years because it's like very much of like almost like a headbanger kind of heavy rock group.
Do not knock Rush.
I'm not knocking. I'm stating a fact. It's not a woman's group. There are women.
That's not true.
Well,
back in the day,
Shelley,
it was a woman's group.
Shelley, trust me.
What?
I mean, there's a running joke that they told about the fact that if there were more than 10% women in the audience at a Rush concert, that was a huge number of women. It was mainly guys.
I've been to a Rush concert.
Yeah, but well,
Don't say one single word.
Shelley, do you consider yourself to be normal? you are by all means not normal. So if you were at the Rush concert,
I consider myself unique.
You were probably one of the handful.
You know how you catch a unique rabbit?
How's that?
You sneak up on them.
It's just like, for example,
Bad joke.
I mean, come on, there are groups that are traditionally male or female oriented. Like, for example, I guess 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer than that, 5 or 6 years ago, I don't know. I went to the Michael Bolton concert when it was in St. Louis.
That's so.
It was me
cute.
and I think it was me and 3 other guys there, and that was it. You know, and I have to tell you, I was impressed. He's an incredibly. I didn't even realize this. He plays guitar. I mean, he was really good. You know, I mean, and I'm not saying, because he got sort of the reputation of being, like, hey, sing all these love songs. It's Michael Bolton,
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Women going to a Michael Bolton concert is like men going to a strip club.
Well, I mean, I enjoyed it. I really did. He did a nice job and was very, the ultimate consummate performer. Just did a wonderful performance. Singing was great. He played piano. He played guitar. It was all good, and it was me and about 2,000 women and 2 other guys who looked like they got drugged there.
Did he still have his mullet?
No, he just had sort of like long hair. I'm trying to think. I don't know if he did. I think he had sort of like almost like a business kind of haircut. I don't really remember that much about what his hair looked like. But, the interesting thing was, what he used to do, which was, I don't think they do it anymore, but he was on tour. He was a really, really, really good softball player. And when they would go on tour, they would make arrangements to have charity softball games on the day of his concert. So they'd roll in the town, and they'd usually come in like that morning, and then they would have like a charity softball concert in the afternoon. And he had all these guys on his staff who are really good softball players, and he was really good as well too. And they would just cream everybody they played. But yet then they'd give them money to charity. They'd win almost every time. They'd win because they were like ringers. I think he had guys on his staff that were they were like professional softball players, and he hired them. Okay, you're going to pretend to be a roadie, but you're really a professional softball player. And they raised lots of money that way. And it was a deal where they always, it was typically a radio station or some kind of a civic group that they arranged with, and they'd come into town and they'd do the softball games. If you go to YouTube and you type in Michael Bolton softball, you'll see all sorts of these videos of him playing softball. Isn't that interesting? Aren't you fascinated?
That actually is very interesting and very adorable.
Well, I mean, once again, he's a good guy. I mean, most guys, touring, they don't want to talk to the fans. They don't, they don't want to have anything to do with the riffraff fans who buy their records and go to their concerts and make them multimillionaires. They just don't want anything to do with them. You know what I'm saying?
See, I don't think that's the case.
A lot of them it is. That's unfortunately, that's the way it is. So just one of those things.
Well, in their defense, fans are crazy.
Cray, really?
Really cray.
Hey.
I am not lying.
We're behind again. We got to take a break. It's 7 o'clock. Westplex 107.1, new version of that song. You like that, Shelley?
I actually do. I think it's a lovely song.
That's Taylor Swift, and who's the guy in it now?
I have no idea.
Shawn Mendes.
Oh,
yes,
Shawn.
Yes, they're doing the duet together. When that song first came out and I heard it, oh man, slow plodding song. Shelley's gonna love this. It's gonna be like like my Immortal. It's like a beat every 30 seconds. It's so slow. Oh, excuse me, I felt
actually that's not a snoozy song.
What's not a snoozy song?
The song that we just played.
You don't think it's a snoozy song? No? Okay. Whatever. So, anyway, that's Lover by now Taylor Swift and Shawn Mendes. Okay, 708 Good morning. I'm going to read this story, which almost sounds fake, but this is a real story, okay? And you're not going to believe it. It's so bizarre and so weird that only in New York could it happen. The story is about Jared Woodbury. Jared, Gerod Woodbury, okay? Do you know why Jared Woodbury is in the news?
I have no idea.
He is, some people would say, an example of what's wrong with New York's new bail law. We talked about this several weeks back, that as of January 1st in New York, they've changed the rules for if you're arrested, there are only certain crimes they can keep you in jail for. All other crimes, you have to be released. Once they process you, you have to be released. And there's no bail. Like in the old days, if you spit on the sidewalk or whatever, and they would say it was $1,000 bail to get out of jail. If you couldn't make $1,000, you got stuck in jail. Well, now that's totally different. And essentially, the only time bail is allowed is for a serious felony, a class, I don't know what they have in New York, but in other words, it has to be a violent felony. But yet, if it's a non-violent, a felony, you can't be held in jail for bail. They arrest you, they bring you in the jail, they book you, they mugshot you, they fingerprint you, and then they let you back out. Okay? Jared Woodbury has robbed 5 banks since January 1st. And even to the point where I guess I shouldn't laugh because it's not funny, but it is funny. And they arrest him, and he goes out, and he released him, and he goes out and robs another bank. So they arrest him, they bring him in, and they book him, and he goes out and robs another bank. Now, how is he doing this? Because he's not using a gun. He goes up to the bank teller with a note.
Was he using harsh language?
No, he goes him a note. Give me money. And they give him money, and he runs out of the bank. And they've got all sorts of pictures of him, the security cameras and the whole bit. And after this happened, about the 4th time, a reporter, followed the police after he was arrested, and took him to jail. And the reporter was waiting for him as they were releasing him from what they call One Police Plaza, which is one of the main police stations in New York. And the reporter interviewed him, and this guy said, "Are you ready for this?" Quote,
"What?
I can't believe they let me out." He just robbed bank number 4, and he's getting let out of jail. And then he goes on to say, where was it? He says, "What were they thinking?"
Oh, that's so funny. It's like Groucho Marx comment.
This is the guy who just robbed 4 banks, and each time they catch him, they process him, and they turn him loose. And now what's happening is people are saying, hey, guess what? And matter of fact, there are a lot of people, the New York Police Commissioner, Dermot Shea, he said, this makes NYPD cops' jobs harder and makes New Yorkers less safe. And get this, Woodbury's alleged spree began December 30th when he slipped a note demanding money to a teller at the Chase Bank on 9th Avenue and West 16th Street, taking off with more than $1,000. He struck next at a Chase Bank at Broadway and West 90th on January 3rd at about 3:30 p.m., again handing a teller a note but leaving empty-handed. 3 days later, he struck in West Village, making off with more than $1,000, and on January 8th, he passed a note to an Upper West Side bank teller and left empty-handed again. Patrol cops caught up with him in Manhattan on Thursday after the NYPD sent a photo of him to thousands of NYPD smartphones. Less than a day later, Woodbury took advantage of his unexpected freedom to rob a 5th bank in downtown Brooklyn. In that heist, he allegedly passed a note to a teller at the Chase Bank on Flatbush Avenue and made off with more than $1,000. In surveillance footage released by cops Saturday, the suspect is seen walking into the bank wearing jeans, a black puffy coat, and a baseball cap. Woodbury, a South Carolina native, has at least one previous arrest for possession of marijuana from August 2007 in Brooklyn. Facebook page that appears to belong to Woodbury shows him playing online Texas Hold'em poker game multiple times. Woodbury's lawyer did not return a request for comment, blah, blah, blah. So since they changed the law, they can't, when you think about that, bank robbery, don't you think that would be the kind of thing that, even though he didn't use a gun, there was no violence, don't you think that would be the kind of thing that people should be held in jail for?
Yeah, especially when he's a repeat offender.
Yeah, well, he's robbed 5 banks in 10 days. I mean, come on. I heard this yesterday and I thought to myself, this has got to be a joke. This can't be a real story. And sure enough, there it is, the New York Post. And they got the reporter. Imagine where he says, where's the quote? We're going to find that again. I can't believe they let me out. Is that like the classic quote of the century or what? Here we are, 14 days into the new decade, and it's like the classic quote of the decade. What were they thinking? It's like, does he want, maybe he wants to be in jail. Maybe he
There
wants.
are some people that do.
Well,
you know that this is going back maybe last year or the year before. I was at Enact Wellness Solutions, and I was doing my thing. And then I was outside, and I was talking to another person, and I'm like, those were gunshots. And it was down over by where Bass Pro is.
Yeah.
And 3 things were happening simultaneously, all unrelated. And the gunshots were a drug deal gone bad. There was a man that was robbing a place I don't remember which place it was, but it was in that complex where Bass Pro is and Buffalo Wild Wings and Gordman's, you know what I'm saying? Down on Main
Street. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Street.
Right.
Yes. And so evidently it was a man that had just gotten out of jail, and he couldn't handle the outside world. So he went with a play gun and held them at play gun point.
Well, the only problem with that is that one of these days he's going to hold somebody at gunpoint with a play gun, and somebody's going to pull out their not play gun, and he's going to have some problems, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, he wanted to go to jail.
Well,
he wanted to get back in the big house.
He could have gone to the mortuary, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
I do, but somebody desperate times.
There are a lot of concealed carry. I mean, look at that situation that happened a couple weeks back about that guy that went in that church in Texas and killed 2 guys, but then,
6 seconds.
Yeah, but one of the guys who was head of the security for the church shot him. 1 shot killed him, and now and once again, I can't believe this came out to be negative. There were 6 different guys in the church that day that had their guns on them, and all 6 of them, besides the guy that actually shot him, all 6 of them pulled their guns. And I'm going like, okay, maybe this will send a message to, these crazy nuts that go in and, try to blow away people in churches and things like that. Like, don't try it, because guess what? Because they changed that law in Texas. That was part of the deal. It was illegal to have a concealed carry firearm in churches in Texas, and they changed that. And now you can do that. And that's the result, it's just bizarre. I mean, think about it. It's just like the stuff that came out about this Saudi guy that, unfortunately killed the Navy pilots down there at Pensacola, Pensacola Naval Air Station. I mean, the guy's just a crazy nut, and they just expelled a bunch of the other Saudi officers. So anyway, we won't talk about that.
Okay, let's not talk about that.
We'll play some more music. It's 7:16. Westplex 107.1, live. I like you better. 7:23. Good morning. It's BS in the morning. I am Shelley. She is Brad, right?
That's as close as we're going to get today. I
have had some business to do in the past couple weeks in downtown Clayton. And there's a parking lot, which, by the way, used to be a bank, and they knocked the bank down to build a parking lot. Isn't that always nice when they knock down a perfectly good building and they build a parking lot? But anyway, it's right across the street from the, let me think, it would be on Central, bounded by Central and Carondelet. And it's a big surface lot with meters, okay? And in the past 3 weeks, I have maybe been there 4 times. And each of the times, a lady comes and asks me for money. And it's the same lady. And I think she just works the parking lot all day long.
That's a new. Is she a meter maid?
No. And she's dressed sort of weird. I mean, like yesterday she had on.
She's like a homeless person. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I mean, she's very well made up. Her makeup is like, shall we say, a little too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do that.
Okay, and yesterday she had on a bright pink long dress or some kind of almost like a gown, went down to almost to the ground, and she's got a backpack that's like a kid's backpack with like animals and things like that on it. Okay. And what's interesting is this has happened to me twice when she's done this, where I pull into a parking space and I'm getting ready to, because I have to go into the county government center, and I have to, how do I put this? I have to metal detector proof myself. You know what I mean? Which means I pull.
You have to clean out your pockets.
Right. I clean all the stuff, take all the change out of my pockets, take my belt off, take everything out of my pockets that would be, go through the metal detector. So, so I go through, I sort of streamlined it so that I go through, all I have is like my phone and my little wallet, and I, put all my stuff in a little bin. And so I'm sitting like the 4 times this happened to me twice, I'm sitting in my car doing this, and she comes and like not knocks, but raps on the window, like whack, 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 And first time I was like, whoa, what the hell was that? And normally it's right at the driver's side. And the first time it did that, it's like, whoa, like what the hell's that? Because I'm looking down and, taking things out of my pocket, putting them on the seat next to me and stuff like that. And I roll down the window and she says, do you have any money you can give me? I go, no, I don't. And she says, okay, walks away. So yesterday, I back into a parking space, because I normally back into parking spaces, and I wasn't even backed into the space, and I thought I hit something because whack on the passenger side, and it's her standing next to my car, whacking on my passenger's window. And I look over, and she looks at me like, like she sort of puts her hands up like, hey, what do you got for me? And I shook my head, nothing, and she walks away. And as I went into the building and came out, she's sitting, there's a bench right on the corner of Carondelet and Central, I guess that would be Central and Carondelet, that's started at a 45-degree angle. It's right across from the jail. And she's sitting there. And she's watching cars come into the parking lot, and as cars come into the parking lot, she gets up and she goes over and knocks on their windows. I'm going like, I wonder if you can make a living at this, What am I doing,
Well, evidently you can.
Well, I just be curious to find out what kind of, and the crazy thing about this is, I have to tell you, Shelley, I keep talking about this. One of these days, I'm going to do it, or I'm going to make up my little sign, and I'm going to pull, I'm going to get on the exit ramp somewhere, and I'm going to just say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to make some money today. And, I'm going to, hey, I'm a homeless radio guy. Can you help me out? And see what I get.
You are an investigative journalist.
but
you went down to Ferguson. You earned your props.
Well, but still, I mean, don't you think that I know maybe the police, it's just like going back to my days when I was...
You would think, on Lake St. Louis Boulevard, on 70 and Lake St. Louis Boulevard, there's a couple that sits there, and sometimes they have their dog.
I know. There's a place out in Franklin County. There's a spot there, 44. If you're going east on 44 and you get off at the Highway 100 exit right there in Gray Summit, there's a guy who's always there. There used to be, before they changed the ramps around on eastbound 70 on the 5th Street right there in St. Charles, there used to be a lady and her kid who was always there, and to the point where it's like, okay, I want, and to the point where I told the stupid story before, about when Dr. Phil had this on one of his shows, and I saw this one day, and they took one of their producers and stuck him on a corner in Las Vegas, and then they had like another guy down the corner, who actually would interview people, and the deal was, if you went to the first guy and you gave him money or didn't give him money, then you walk down the street, and then the producer, there were 2 producers, one who was actually acting like, hey, he's trying to, he's asking people for money, and then the second producer would, bring people in and say, hey, that guy up the street that was asking for money, he's one of our staff members, and you gave him $50. Why did you do that? Or you didn't give him any money, and they'd interview him the whole bit. And after the segment was over, Dr. Phil comes on and he says, well, I want you to know that, that our producer, Jim, Money Grubber, whatever his name was, that he did this for 3 hours and made $357, and we gave that money to the charity. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing working? I can go to Las Vegas, work the corner and make $100 an hour. You know what I mean? Cash, no taxes, and in Vegas, can you imagine? Can you imagine if you worked, let's say you could do that. Let's say you could make $100 an hour and you worked 3 hours a day, and, what a life.
And with no pressure.
Yeah, and no taxes, no nothing, don't have to file any forms, don't have to report to the IRS, or, don't have to do your taxes at the end of the year. Like right now, you don't have to worry about W-2s and all that kind of stuff. You're living a life,
So is this when you spoke earlier in the show, is this the woman that you wanted to know her background?
Well, I just think it's sort of interesting. I mean, I want to know, I'm fascinated by what motivates people.
She sounds like she's the queen of the silver dollar.
I don't know. I mean, I would say probably mid to late 20s, I'm thinking, and you know what, like I said, I was talking about this before. When I used to work for the police department, I bet you if you go into Clayton and you ask one of the cops, they know exactly who she is. They know exactly where she lives. They know everything about her because they've had all sorts of interactions with her. And yet, she just keeps coming back. And like I said, I don't know if it's illegal or not. I don't know. Maybe it is in Clayton. I don't know.
It's illegal everywhere, Brad.
No, I don't know if it is.
Absolutely.
No, remember I think they proved
That's
it.
solicitation. You can't do that.
Yeah, but I think
solicitation, O'Fallon, solicitation is illegal.
I think they changed that. I mean, I think there was a Supreme Court ruling in Missouri that states you can do it.
I don't think so. I call BS on that.
Wow, Shelley calls BS.
I do.
7:31. Westplex 107.1. It is BS in the morning. It is B minus S because she's on strike. Actually, she's not on strike. She just decided that, no. Here, Shelley, you there? Sure. Shelley, you back again? Okay, here, hold. Yeah, go ahead.
Drawback 2 and punt.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what. You say the most interesting things.
I don't think that we should be called cougars anymore. I think we should be called panthers.
Really?
They don't have dog catchers in the government.
Wow, Shelley, you are just a font of information this morning. It's good talking to you. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, you're back. You were on strike for a minute. You said, I'm not going on the air with you. She says that off the air, right? But
that's because he's frustrating. Anyway, guess what? There's a ice carving competition. It's a campaign kickoff.
Right.
But it's an ice carving competition down in historic downtown St. Charles.
Competition or kickoff for who?
Scott, Tom Hannigan.
Oh, so why is he kickoff? What is he doing? Is he playing football now?
He's getting reelected.
Oh.
But anyway, what I'm going to say is this was actually kind of interesting that they're having this ice carving competition, and it's on January 25th, and you get to vote. It's people's choice. In the morning is a team competition, and in the afternoon is an individual carver. How fun is that?
Interesting.
I thought so too.
Yeah. Briefly, let's talk about, we sort of alluded this in our first break this morning, about the situation with baseball. And remember, you and I talked about this last year. And there was a lot of controversy about this. And essentially,
it happened in 2017, though.
Yes. And it involved the Houston Astros. And as the story goes, now they've pretty much confirmed everything about what everybody thought was going on, which actually going on.
And it took them 2 years to do that?
Well, things move slowly.
3 now.
They put a camera. This is the Houston Astros. They put a camera in center field. This was not for TV, but was their own use. It's essentially a CCTV, a closed-circuit television camera, like a security camera.
What is that again, a CCTV?
Closed-circuit television. That's what that used to be called, CCTV. They don't call it that too much anymore. It's now security cameras. Anyway, they put this camera in the center field, and it zoomed in on home plate specifically to look at the catcher of the opposing team. And when he would flash the signs, they would figure out what his signs were. Like if you've seen, they put a couple fingers down, fastball, 3 fingers down, curveball, whatever the deal is. Okay.
Well, I personally would be upset about that because they were pointing it at my groin.
Thanks for being right on topic, Shelley.
What?
You're not a catcher in the major leagues, but I guess if you were a woman, that would not be a good situation to have a camera pointed at your groinal area. Okay, so anyway, they had a TV monitor just outside the dugout. And they would figure out the signs. It usually wouldn't take them too long to figure out, what 2 fingers meant, a fastball, whatever. And then they had a trash can that they would beat on. And depending upon what pitch it was, I think, I can't remember how it was. They had more, if it was like a fastball, they wouldn't hit the trash can. And if it was like a off-speed pitch or something like that, I can't remember the whole deal is. So anyway, there were all sorts of videos last year that showed up of this going on, of, right before the pitch, you heard boom, like, somebody whacking on a trash can. Well, it turned out that's exactly what they were doing. They were stealing the signs. And by hitting the trash can a number of times or no times at all, that would tip off their batter, who was in the batter's box, as to what pitch he was going to get. Now, they won the World Series that year. And now they got nailed. They got the heaviest fine ever in Major League Baseball, $5 million fine. The two head guys, the manager and the general manager, were sanctioned by Major League Baseball. They can't, be, what they were for a year. And the owner of the Houston Astros fixed that because he fired them both. And there's a third guy that was involved with this, who was also a coach at the time for Houston, who's now, I believe, the coach for the Boston Red Sox, I believe, something like that. And they're saying that will probably come out today, that he will also be fined and could very well be kicked out of baseball for a year. And it could be, if they say this is the ultimate, and if they decide this is the ultimate violation, they could be like Pete Rose, where he could be kicked out of baseball permanently and never allowed to be involved with baseball again. What do you think?
That's deep.
Well, but one of these guys, I think his name is...
serious. I wasn't being facetious. I was being serious.
One of these guys, his name is Jeff Luna, used to be with the Cardinals. And if you remember, there was all sorts of shenanigans going on between the Cardinals and Houston, where there's a guy who worked for the Cardinals who stole a bunch of stuff for the Cardinals and then ended up working for Houston. And I think he's still in jail because they got him on some kind of, data, theft charges, where you can't necessarily hack into somebody's computer and steal their data. That's illegal. And I'm thinking to myself, man, Major League Baseball, couple of black eyes, and the situation is now there's rumors that since this happened during the year that the Houston Astros won the World Series, that they would take the pennant away from them. They essentially would say, well, that's what people are talking about now, whether or not it actually happens.
Why did it take 2 years or three years to find out?
And the crazy thing about it is,
do they think they're the government?
Do you remember us talking about this on the air? It was like 3 or 4 months ago. And
I understand that.
But the crazy thing about it is, if you and I are talking about it, everybody in the sports world knows about it. You know what I mean? Because neither you or I are sports fans.
Because we are sports fanatics.
Well, no, we're not. But the idea being is that it was so blatant what was going on. And there were all sorts of, matter of fact, I can go right now, I bet you any money, if I pick up my phone and I go into YouTube and I just hit, okay, I'm just going to go and I'm just going to type in if my phone's going to work, I'm going to go Astros pitchers cheating. Okay, here it is. Caught cheating, 100% proof video. There's tons of them. Astros using cameras to steal signs, breakdown. Astros have a dark secret. Houston Astros pitching illegally, doctoring baseballs. Astros facing cheating allegations. Astros were caught cheating. There's video after video after video of this. 25 minutes of the Astros illegally stealing signs. 2017. This is 25 minutes of nothing but them doing. I'm going like, okay. So your question is a great question. How come nothing happened? It's that's 2017. You're in the year 2020. We're what, 3 seasons away from that now?
Yeah, that is so last decade ago.
Last decade ago. Well, anyway, sort of interesting. So, it's one of those things where, who was it? There's a famous quote by one of the baseball players. I don't think it was Yogi Berra. And the quote is, if you ain't cheating, you're not trying.
I can't believe that he said that.
Somebody did. Here, hold on a minute.
Because cheaters never prosper, and I can't see
I don't know
Yogi
about that.
saying something like
no,
that.
No, I don't say it was him. I couldn't remember. Here, let me see. I'll just put, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Okay, let's see what happens if I get at that. Eddie Guerrero quotes, "If you're not cheating, you're not trying." And that's Eddie Guerrero, who was...
Thank you. Who was a cheater, obviously.
I guess. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. Tips, techniques to Amazon.com. Part 1, if you're not cheating. If you're not cheating,
If that's
you're
his
trying
life mantra, yeah.
I guess. Who knows? I mean,
Yeah, but I can't see Yogi saying that.
Yeah, because it makes sense.
He's apple pie and Chevrolet.
No, the stuff that Yogi said didn't make any sense. That's why he wouldn't say it. Okay, it's 7:48.
The Orange Theory Transformation Challenge changes you from the inside out. To join the 8-week weight loss challenge, visit the Lake St. Louis studio on Ronald Reagan Drive anytime from December 30th through January 17th.
Well, that's going to do it for BS in the morning. We're getting out early this morning. Can you believe that?
I don't even know what to think about
What
that.
the heck?
'Cause usually we're late.
What the heck happened? We talked about all sorts of... we didn't talk about this morning? Let's talk about
What?
that tomorrow. The Kim Gardner thing. Do you know she filed this huge lawsuit against the city of St. Louis and the police department, the police union, and the mayor, and
For what?
racial discrimination.
I kind of figured that.
Kim Gardner is the prosecuting attorney, and she's been involved. She was involved heavily with the Eric Greitens case, which ultimately he resigned over, and a lot of weird stuff going on in her office. And
Isn't she announced that somebody just announced that they're running for mayor?
no, it's not her. It's not her. I don't think at this point. I don't think Kim Gardner could be elected mayor. I don't think she could be elected dog catcher at this point because,
There's no dog catchers in the government.
Hold on a minute. Whoa. You caught me off guard. Hold on.
They don't have dog catchers in the government.
Okay.
See?
Is it live or is it Memorex? Remember those days?
I do.
Anyway.
I love that.
Anyway, we'll talk about that tomorrow. And, and the goofy thing about it is she's not paying for the attorneys. It's some organization that's of somebody, it's some out of Dallas, Texas, and it's funded by some lady who claims that police kill black people or something. I don't know. The whole thing's just gotten
That's probably the coalition that bust their people up here to increase the Ferguson riots.
Well, the whole thing, it's to the point where why don't people, and here we go again. Here's another perfect example. Why is the St. Louis area, at least the city of St. Louis, not attractive to people who want to move here and do business? Because of crazy, weird stuff like this. You know what I mean?
Which doesn't even represent our city.
I get it, but it's to the point where it's just you hear about and there's a guy in San Francisco who's the new whatever they call it, prosecuting attorney, district attorney, PADA, whatever you want to call him, and we had the story this morning about the guy in New York who, since they've changed the rules on bail, he goes and robs a bank. They arrest him, they process him, they release him. He goes and robs another bank. They arrest him, they process him, they release him. He goes and robs another bank. If it weren't so tragic, it really would be funny because at least he's being nonviolent. But still, if you work at the bank, the last thing you want is somebody coming in and slipping you a note, give me all your money. You know what I mean? That's got to have a traumatic effect on the employees at the bank, don't you think?
Oh my goodness, PTSD all the way.
Oh, I'm telling you.
But you know what? It's 8:00.
Do you know where Shelley is?
No. It's 10 o'clock.
More
Do you know where your
appropriately,
children are?
do you care where Shelley is?
Thank you, and here's my address.
Yeah, right. Okay, it's time for you to go ahead and do it. Go ahead. You ready? You gonna do it?
And now the most important man in St. Charles County steps up to the microphone and says,